In this video, we're going to be explaining schizophrenia using psychological theories. This includes how maybe communication styles within the family have a role to play in the development of disorder, but also cognitive explanations that suggest that schizophrenia results from a dysfunction in how people process their thoughts. So let's begin. Psychboost.com, over 170 videos to help you with your qualification, and Patreon supporters can access bonus resources, tutorial videos, and the Discord channel. Family dysfunction. The first term we're going to use is family dysfunction. This term is suggesting that the families of people with schizophrenia have some problem in the way they interact, and over time that has resulted in the expression of schizophrenia. I'm going to use 3 examples of family dysfunction: the schizophrenic mother, double bind theory, and expressed emotion. So starting with the schizophrenic mother. This confusing word is a combination of schizophrenia and genic, meaning generating or creating. So a schizophrenic mother means a mother who creates schizophrenia within a child. And this theory has psychodynamic origins and suggests that while growing up, a child experienced a cold, rejecting and controlling relationship with their mother, while the father was mainly passive. This stressful experience of living in a tense household results in psychotic thinking, resulting in the positive symptom of paranoid delusions. A second concept is that of the double bind theory. This suggests that in the family, the child is constantly receiving mixed messages about what's expected from them. Let's look at an example. So they might get told that they need to be more independent. They might say, "Oh, I don't like it when you sit around the house so much. Why don't you go and do something?" But when they try to be independent, the parent could be overprotective and say, "Oh, I didn't like it when you went outside. I worry so much about you. I really don't think you can handle being outside on your own." Now, this mixed message approach to parenting, according to Bateson, can result in disorganized thinking and paranoia. And a final family dysfunction explanation is expressed emotion. This is the attitude that the caregivers have about the person with schizophrenia, measured by what the caregiver says about them. Examples of problematic social interactions are exaggerated involvement. This is where the caregiver emphasizes the level of burden that they have and how much they have to sacrifice, saying things like, "I do so much for you. It's so hard. My life revolves around looking after you." Another aspect is criticism and control. So we would expect to see the caregiver say things such as, "You don't know how to do anything. You need to listen to me more and do what you're told." And finally, hostility. This is when the sufferer would receive abuse, verbal or even physical, but generally experiencing rejection, hearing things like, "You're a total waste of space." And we do have an evaluation supporting the theory that expressed emotion affects people with schizophrenia. Butzlaff and Huey conducted a meta-analysis including 27 studies, and the results indicated that a relapse in the symptoms of schizophrenia was significantly more likely in sufferers who had a family with high levels of expressed emotion. On the wider point that family dysfunction is a factor in the development of schizophrenia, we can again turn to the research of Tanari. This research looked at the adopted children of biologically schizophrenic mothers, and the results showed 36.8% of those children who were adopted into psychologically unhealthy families developed schizophrenia, compared to only 5.8% of those that were adopted into the psychologically healthy families. This suggests that interpersonal family dynamics does have a role to play in the development of schizophrenia. But we could add to this that it also suggests that psychological factors may not tell the whole story, as these were people who were genetically vulnerable, and 5.8% of those raised in psychologically healthy families developed schizophrenia, far higher than the 1% expected in the general population. Cognitive explanations. Another psychological perspective we can take is the cognitive suggestion that schizophrenia is actually due to the individual's thought processes not working correctly, so being dysfunctional. We can give 3 examples of how these thought processes can be dysfunctional: a faulty attention system, a lack of central control, and issues of meta-representation. So let's take those issues one at a time. Firstly, Firth suggests an attention deficit theory, claiming the attention system of someone with schizophrenia is unable to filter preconscious thoughts. Their conscious mind is overloaded and focused on thoughts that would normally be filtered out before coming to consciousness. This theory provides an explanation for both the positive symptoms of hallucinations and delusions. Firth also suggests there's an issue with central control. This is the process we use to make deliberate actions, suppressing automatic actions and speech. For example, seeing a door handle, there might be an automatic urge to open it. that would normally be suppressed. However, with problems with central control, a schizophrenic patient might have difficulty resisting the urge and struggle to explain why they opened the door, resulting in delusions. Problems with central control can also give an explanation for speech derailment, when during a conversation the topic will frequently change. This is due to a lack of central control in resisting saying automatic thoughts out loud. Meta-representation is how we identify that we are responsible for our own thoughts and actions. If I make a decision, I have a sense that it was me that made it. I do that by paying attention to my own thought processes. However, if there's a fault in this process, it can result in a feeling that my thoughts and actions are being controlled by an outside force. When coming to evaluate, we can consider brain imaging evidence provided by Firth. 30 patients had PET scans, and these scans revealed a reduction in blood flow to the frontal cortex in patients with negative symptoms like avolition and an inability to suppress automatic thoughts. The same scans also showed an increased activity in areas of the temporal lobe that are associated with retrieval of memories in those patients with reality distortions. All of this suggests that there are differences in the way that people with schizophrenia process thoughts. A second cognitive evaluation considers central control. Sterling conducted the Stroop test on 30 patients with schizophrenia and 18 controls. This is a simple to conduct test in which you present the names of colours written in a different colour of ink. You ask the participants to name the ink colour. This is difficult to do quickly and requires central control to avoid shouting out the name of the colour that's written. Sterling found that the patients with schizophrenia took twice as long to name the ink colours as the control group. This suggests that people with schizophrenia really do have issues with thought processing, in this case having a dysfunction in their central control. We've covered a lot in this video, but before I finish I want to consider some extra evaluations. Firstly, to look at the success of family therapy as a treatment. It's an effective intervention, and its effectiveness supports the argument for family dysfunction in some way causing schizophrenia, and we can make the same argument for the success of CBT and cognitive causes. But secondly, the family dysfunction theory may have an ethical problem. By suggesting that the family is responsible for the disorder, it's effectively placing the blame on them. So we could say research in this area is socially sensitive. We might be causing additional anxiety to people who are already dealing with the symptoms of their family member. Also, when considering family dysfunction, we have to consider it may not be the family dysfunction that causes schizophrenia. It could be the other way around. It might be the behaviour of the sufferer has led to a breakdown in communication within the family. We also cannot ignore the significant amount of evidence, such as that provided by Gottsman, that schizophrenia is a genetic disorder, so biologically caused, potentially due to an imbalance of neurotransmitters. We could argue that this is an interaction between biological and psychological causes, but it's likely that schizophrenia isn't an entirely psychological illness. And now you've learnt all that, here's a real exam question that you might want to attempt after covering that information. And if you're a patron at the neuron level and above, you can access a tutorial on psychboost.com in which I talk you through a model answer for this question and give you some general tips. For everyone else, don't forget to subscribe, you don't want to miss the videos released right up to your exams. And I'll see you in the next PsychBoost video.